Alrighty, this is going to be a hopefully simple to follow tutorial on some really basic Lua. It's just going to be about basically drawing things and making really simple screens work. So you can make some cool displays and all that. Keep in mind, I'm by no means an expert. I can do really basic functions, absolutely nothing mildly complicated, but hopefully some of the things that I'll show you in this tutorial can help you out, at least start to understand how it all works, because it can be quite confusing. Maybe it'll be easier to follow since I don't really know a lot and I was kind of learning the same way, so hopefully I can explain it in some ways that will make sense to other people. But yeah, so this tutorial is made for people who don't really know anything about Lua, obviously, because I don't know much myself and I'm probably not going to teach any experts anything. I'm not going to show anything super complicated, and yeah, hopefully you guys can take something away from this video. Everything I show in this video is pretty much the extent of my Lua knowledge. I've been able to make some cool screens using the info that I'm going to show you though, so hopefully you can too. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the very first thing that we're going to want to do is choose a monitor that we want to build on. So for this video I'm going to be using a 2x2 monitor, and this size does majorly affect your build. Every single monitor has a different amount of pixels to it, and each pixel is basically one block that we can color. Now those pixels are also very important because they act as coordinates, similar to on the map. So whenever we say we want to go to this location, we go and choose a coordinate and we draw there, and that's where we're going to draw. So that's actually how we decide where we're going to be placing things on our monitor. For example, the 1x1 pixel is 32 pixels high and 32 pixels wide. That means the entire monitor is made up of 1024 pixels. That's if you multiply each side, because that's the area of it, that's how you do it. Now each monitor is different, as I already said, so one Stormworks block is 32 pixels wide and 32 pixels tall. So that would make the 2x2 monitor 64 pixels tall and 64 pixels wide. So you have to kind of do that math all the way up as you get higher and higher and higher, or the bigger monitors you use or the smaller monitors you use. So the smallest one we have is 32 by 32, and every single block wider or taller it goes up 32. So this is what I mean whenever I say we actually have to know the coordinates and everything to know where we want to draw. So this is actually how all the Lua works. So you have to think of it as you have your grid. So we have 1 to 20 here. Obviously the max is 32 on the little one, but this is just a little bit scaled down for demonstration. And then we have 0 to 20 here. So 0 always starts at the very top left, and it gets greater as it goes to the right, and it gets greater as it goes down. So this is your X axis to the left and right, and this is your Y up and down. So whenever you are actually wanting to draw in Lua, it will have two coordinates that you have to fill in. It will have the X and it will have the Y. So the very first thing that you have to do is you have to figure out where is the X and the Y coordinates that you want. So you don't actually have this visual display of where it is, so there is a great website that you can use just for getting locations and stuff, which is all I use it for. You can do it for more. You can actually make the entire display on it, and all of that fun stuff, but I'm not going to do that because it's demonstration. I will show it around so you can actually see how to get coordinates a little bit easier, just because it's faster than guessing or anything else. But so this is like, say we have an X and a Y and we want to fill it in, and we want something, let's just go like over here. So the very first number we would have to fill in is we would say, hey, this is on the 9th pixel, and then we want to go over to, let's just say, the 17th. So that would be here. So I want to draw a pixel here. So that is how we get it. And that, normally, what we have to do for that, that is the very first location. So that's wherever it starts to draw. For instance, say we want to draw a line. So every single thing actually in Lua draws differently. So depending on where it starts. So for a line, what we would do is we would say we want to start our line on 4 and 5. Then we'd put in our next coordinate. So this is how the line works. You don't draw every single pixel for the line. You actually draw where it begins and then where it ends. So let's say we want it to end on 18, and what is that, 8. So then our line would be drawn across there. So it's very simple once you understand. It can just take a little bit to figure out, and a little bit of back and forth spawning if you're just doing it by thought. Now there are other options whenever you say you want to draw something, not just coordinates. There's also the size. So let's say that we want to draw a rectangle. The rectangles draw from the top left corner down and to the right. So we want to draw it at 5 and 4. So this is actually quite accurate. It will go and extend out and down So we have our first location where it starts, and then we actually have to choose how wide it is and how tall it is. So those are different coordinates that we have to actually choose. So we'll just say we want it 14 pixels wide, and then we want it, let's just say 3 pixels tall. So that actually uses how many pixels out it is, not actual coordinates like the line, where it's saying I want to be between here and here. Drawing boxes and everything actually require you to choose how far out it is in the pixels, not off a desired coordinate. Now, of course, there are other shapes that we can draw as well. We can indeed do circles, so we can actually draw a circle, and I don't know if you guys can see that little X in the middle, but that is where it would actually draw in Lua. You would put in your very first coordinate, and that would say this is the very center of your circle, and then you choose how big it is and what the radius of the circle is with those other numbers after it. So you'll see this all whenever we actually get into coding it all, but this is just a little demonstration so that you can actually kind of see what it's wanting to do and how it's going to act whenever you change those numbers. So there we go. So now we have a circle. It's not a very good circle, but it starts right in the middle. So if we say just put a dot there, it does not look like a boob at all, but this is where the circle would begin to draw, and then it would extend out as you make the radius bigger. So enough about all of that. This is the monitor that we're actually going to be making. So a couple of different things that it's going to show you how to do. It's going to show you how to do normal text, how to place it, how to place lines, how to do smaller text. That is going to be utilizing the website that I will link below, and show you how to use a little bit, a quick little way to lay all of this out. I will also show you how to draw numbers as well as clamp them in Lua and floor them in Lua. So what I mean by flooring them is if I have decimals like 0.55, they will not show up. If I go up above that, it still will not show up. It just completely ignores the decimals, which is amazing and nice for tidy screens and all of that, unless you want the decimals, but they do take up more room, and I wanted this kind of to be moved over a little bit more. I will also show you how to make push buttons, as well as make them kind of change color or whatever you really want to do for them, as well as make some simple gauges here. So all the fun stuff. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get right into working on this little test bed and setting everything up. So here is my test bed all emptied out. We just have a simple 2x2 monitor connected to a key, and that is set to constant on by just having it turned on automatically. So I don't need to press the key every single time. Now I'm going to go ahead and get my blank microcontroller, and I will place this down right over here. I will make it yellow. And let's go ahead and figure out what we want to do first. So let's go ahead and make this a 3x3. We will call this a Lua tutorial. And we know one thing right off the bat. We need a video output because we are outputting a signal to the monitor to actually display stuff. So I think we're just going to start with putting the text on top. That's a pretty easy thing to start with, and I will show you actually how to do that. So this is all we need for that because we're just displaying a number. We're not taking anything in, we're not taking anything else out. We're just drawing a label on top of the screen. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and move this down just so that whenever stuff spawns in, it's not in our way. And we are going to grab a Lua block. We're going to place this down right here, and we're going to go ahead and take this video output and send it right to our video output so that everything from our Lua that's getting drawn gets sent directly to our monitor. Let's go ahead and press this and do edit script. We don't need any of that. Let's just start fresh. So we'll delete all of that. If we make our way over to this help tab, this is a really great resource. This shows an overview of everything, script basics, so it's really a directory for most of the stuff that you're going to really have to deal with, and it's also really nice because it allows you to copy and paste everything, so I don't have to write down all of this code again. So obviously this is not all the functions you can do, but this is a lot of the draw stuff. For example, touch data, we can do map stuff, we can get all of the possible things that we can draw on here. So I'm not going to go over all of this, but this is the stuff that you'll need for drawing. So we do have the set color. We also have draw a line, draw a circle, draw a circle. If you see an F after it, that means full. If it doesn't have an F, that means it's empty, meaning that it just is basically an outline. And as you can see, it does come with little instructions and everything above all of them, which can be quite useful, especially for things like this. Draw a triangle, and then it shows and kind of explains it a little bit more. Just even having ands and stuff in between, it helps understand it a little bit more, which is very useful. We're not going to get into anything with maps or any of that. We are just going to simply draw a text box. As we can see right here, we have draw text. So what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and copy that. We're going to bring this over here, and we're actually going to press enter a few times just so that we go down a little bit. I'm going to tab that over just so that it's not crowded on the side, and we're going to go ahead and leave that open. Now we can't just leave that. As you can see here, we have an X, Y, and text. So this text is actually what it's going to display as our label. So I'm going to just put engine there, so that yeah, it's just your label. You can put whatever you want there. And then this is the location. So as I was explaining before, you have the X and the Y. So the X is going to be the lateral, and then the Y is going to be the vertical. So we will play with that later. But right now we actually need to tell the script that we are drawing everything. So we can come all the way up here, we can see all of the script basics, and we can keep coming down, keep coming down, keep coming down until we see a draw function. So as we can see, it's going to be right here. We can write this down, but I can never remember it, and capitals and everything are important, and I still cannot figure that out all the time. So I'm going to go ahead and put this function on draw. So that will let the script know that I am drawing. Now the problem if I do this is it doesn't know whenever I'm ending drawing, so I have to put an end there so that it says everything in between this is going to get drawn, or else it just won't end, and everything below, and it will mess everything up. So right now that works pretty well. So we can go ahead and put our coordinates in, we can put our Y in, all of that. Now I'm going to show you a different thing that you can actually do. We can come up here, and once I find it, there we go. We can go ahead and put this in, and we can actually put this in the on draw. There we go. So we can get screen height and get screen width. I said that the other way around, but that is amazing. So we can actually do this. We can see that that says width. So we'll do width space equals, and then we will do height space equals. Now what that will do is every single time I do W, that will get the screen width. So instead of having to do get screen width or whatever like that, this is just going to really make my life a lot quicker, which is what I like. So this is just another way you can do it. This is a cool way to do it actually, instead of getting coordinates and everything. This actually is a good way to make different screens work across the different screens and the different sizes. So we have our X, so that is our lateral. So what we can do now is we know that's our width. We can do width, and we can do divided by 2. That's a little backslash. Now what that will do is that will take our width of our screen, and that will divide it by 2, and theoretically put our starting where we're going to draw right directly in the center. Now the problem with that is that we are drawing text, and the text starts at the left and then it moves to the right. So depending on how long our text is, it won't actually be directly in the center. So we'll just make this say engine. So that's going to be quite a bit offset. So we can even try something, we can go like 4. So that will divide it into 4. Now we can go ahead and choose our Y, which is how high or low it is. So we don't need this very low. So we can actually go ahead and we'll just try 3. So now we have what we actually want to do. We are not going to be drawing this in any color. So we actually need to go and grab a color so that we can actually see what we're drawing. So we are going to choose this top option. We can do different ones. We can do transparencies, etc. I'm not going to be doing that. And we can actually go ahead and put it on top. Now we can just do the screen set color, or we can come up here and we can make a little shortcut. So let's go ahead and move this down a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and press tab again, and I'm going to put this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a capital SC equals. Now I'm going to remove these. Now, anytime that I do SC, it's going to, basically it's abbreviating screen.setColor. So I can go ahead and do down here, I can do screen set color, and now I can do my little brackets, and I can choose my R, G, and B. So I'm going to go ahead and make this red. So let's do a little bit of a duller red. Let's do 156, comma, 0, comma, 0, and bracket. Now that will set this color to that color. So here is the issue with this. This is capitalized. That has to be lowercase. Now another thing that we actually have to do is we have to put this in quotation marks because we want to write what it actually says. And another thing to note, if we are wanting to actually draw this text, we need to put this in quotation marks if we are drawing text. What did I do there? I don't know what I did there. But if we are wanting to draw text, it has to be inside quotation marks. If we are wanting to display a number, for instance, which I will show you later, we do not use the quotation marks. So that'll make sense later. We are going to check for errors. Done. And there we go. We have engine. Now that looks pretty good and centered to me. It's a little bit to the left, I think, but I don't really care that much. So there we go. So we have our really basic just label. Alright, so we've drawn our label now, and now what we want to do is draw the little line underneath it. So we're going to go ahead and come in here. Again, this is just drawing, so we don't need to add anything else. We're going to make our way back over to the help section, and we are going to come on down and down and down back to the drawing. And we are going to look for draw line. So here it is. So I will go ahead and copy that, and I will put this right below this, and I'll actually give it a little bit of room and then move that end down a little bit more. Now we are going to go ahead and take our same draw color, and I don't want to copy everything. If I can copy the right thing, that would just be amazing. We'll bring this down here. We'll go ahead and make this like a gray, so we'll go 40, 40, and 40, and there we go. So now we have a color and we have a line that we are drawing. Another actually amazingly important thing to note with Lua is that it reads from the top down, which means whatever is done at the very top here will be below whatever is done at the very bottom. So whatever is done at the very end takes priority to whatever is drawn at the very beginning, which is very important if you want to do anything in layers or anything like that, really. Just keep that in mind, that if you want something, like if I am drawing a line over this text, I would want to draw that line after the text so that it gets overlaid on top of it. Yeah, that's it. So this is the X and Y. So this is where the line will begin, its X coordinate and its Y coordinate. And then these, the X and Y coordinate here, is where it will end, and then it will draw a line between the two coordinates. So we will go ahead and do our X coordinate. Let's have it 2 away. I want it 2 blocks out, and we will have it, so we are 3 down, and we need a little bit of room for the writing, so let's go ahead and do 8. And then we want to be 3 off at the very end, so we will do 30. That will leave 2 more at the other end, and then we will do this at 8 as well, because we want it to be flat. And we don't want it angled or anything like that. We want the height to be the exact same. So let's go ahead and make sure that all works. Check for errors. We'll press done, update, and go and check it out. Oop. There we go. So that is not great because I did a 1x1 monitor size. I did not account for it being a 2x2 because I'm used to working on 1x1s. So I also want to move it down 1 block so that this isn't crowding the label. So if I want to move this down 1 block, I will come over here and we see the 8. We will make that a 9 because 0 is at the top, and then the higher the number, the further down you are. And this will be 62 because it is 64 by 64. We'll update that and make sure that all looks correct. And there we go. That looks pretty right to me. We've got the same amount of gap on each side. We've got a nice amount of gap between everything. It all looks natural and right. So that is the very basics of drawing a line. It's quite simple. We can put it on an angle if we want. I'm not going to show that just because I think it's kind of obvious, and I pointed out and showed how everything works enough where you should be able to do that on your own. You just have to move the end coordinate down and then it will draw between it. So pretty simple. So let's actually get into the other website that can help us out with laying out our screen, and we'll actually start to lay out some gauges here, the 2 bar gauges that I showed before. So this is Mr. Lennyns Tool. It's really great. It will be linked below so you can go and check it out. I highly suggest it for mapping out and planning out your displays. So yeah, I'll just kind of go over the general of how it all works. So right now we are at a 1x1 monitor, so we can go ahead and press the lines up here. We can remove the grid, we can add, we can change the size of the monitor. So we are going to be working on a 2x2. We have reference images, hide reference, all of that really cool stuff. So as you can see, we have a bigger grid now because we are on the 2x2. So what's nice about this is it's very simple to use. It gives you all the code on the right that you can actually just copy and paste directly into your Lua block, which can be very easy and make your life a lot easier. But I just like kind of getting the locations and all of that. So we're going to go ahead and press this little empty box on the left, and we can actually go ahead and change the size of a box that we want. So this is going to be our bar gauge. So we're going to go ahead and make this a little bit big. We'll go right there and then we'll let go. And there we go. So as you can see, it just drew that box on the right. So this is the exact same that we were just doing in the Lua, except it automatically did it for us. Now this doesn't automatically do buttons or anything like that, but this just makes your life so much easier for not having to find locations or test any of that, and you can actually visually plan out and see what your monitor is going to look like, which is it's so much easier. Now there are a lot of other tools that do this, but I really like this one. It's quite easy to use and quick. So I want to have 2 bar gauges, so I'm going to go ahead and draw another one directly over that. I'll press the little move tool, and we'll just put a gap of 1 between them. Now we can also change the color of this. So we are doing 40, 40, and 40. So we can go ahead and come in here and change that. And go ahead and paint this. Now the colors are different in Stormworks, which makes it kind of inconvenient. So they look really dark in this, but they change completely whenever you're actually in the game. You can also see that they change to the Stormworks. So what the color is that we actually see here isn't really what it is going to be in Stormworks. So there we go. So that's 40, 40, 40. That was actually amazing. I just got that right off the bat. So that's the color that we actually want. So that is where our gauges are going to be. We have their locations, we have the color. Now what we want to do is we want to go and draw a full rectangle, and we want to make it red. So we're going to choose a red rectangle, and we're going to draw it on the very bottom here, underneath the gauge. It'll actually be above it right now, and then we'll do another right here. So the reason it's going to be below it is because I don't want to have any of it appear whenever it's turned off or at 0. So you can actually come over here and you can do push shape back, and we can go ahead and tap this a couple of times and you can see it moving back. And there we go. So now we know that they're there. We can go ahead and move that. Oh, I just moved it again. There we go. Anyways, so there it is. Now we have our location. So the one on the left is here at the very top. One on the right is one down, so it goes left and then right. So they are nice and separated. And we already have our function on draw, so we can go ahead and copy that. Now the problem with this is they use the shortcuts over here, and I have not done all of that yet. So we want to actually go ahead and take all of that. Now we don't actually need all of that, but we do need quite a bit of it. So we're going to go back over to our logic, and we're going to go ahead and come back up to here with our little abbreviations, and we're going to go ahead and put that there. And I'm going to press the tab key a couple of times to move all of those over. Now we don't have the S equals screen. We do have the SC equals set screen color. So we can go ahead and remove that and delete that, delete that. We don't have draw rectangle full, and we don't have draw rectangle. So I'm going to leave those all in, and we're going to go back. I'm going to move that over just because I think it'll look nicer. Now we can go ahead and grab all of that. Not all of that, but just the actual draw functions inside of the draw. We don't need the functions again because we already have it in our Lua. So we'll come back here to our Lua over here, and we'll go ahead and go down a couple of notches and paste that in. We'll go ahead and tab that all over just so I'm not right on the edge again. And there we go. So we can see off of our colors which part is which. So this is the first one, draw rectangle full. That is going to be the red bar that we're actually going to make move. And then we have the set color again right below it. And then that is a draw rectangle. And there's no F after that, which means it is not full. And it was drawn first, so it will be on the left. So we're going to go ahead and add our little spaces. And I'm actually going to separate them out all a little bit just so I can tell the difference. Now another cool thing we can do is we can do a bunch of dashes. I think it's just 2, yeah, it's just 2 that we need. And we can actually add notes, which we'll add to our characters, but it's really great for figuring out what stuff is and separating things, especially if you have a lot of code. You can kind of see what stuff is a little bit quicker. It's also just nice for separating it, so you can actually see what is what. So we can just call this first bar. and then we can add a bunch afterwards. I like doing that just so I can kind of find it quicker. And then I'll add 3 more, and then I will put second bar, and then a bunch more after that. There we go. So now I kind of just have my separated parts so I can easily find them. Now, we already have that all drawn, so we're going to go ahead and check for errors, and we're actually going to spawn it in and make sure everything looks right. So we don't need to connect to anything else, at least not yet. We're going to need to add some nodes later. My game's really slowed down right now. I think I have probably something in, or I just need to restart. So that looks correct. So that is where I want my bars. Obviously, I can't see the red part, but let's go ahead and finish these up. So first of all, we need a couple of throttles. So that is what I'm going to deal with right now. Right there, we will go ahead and leave them at a max of 1. We'll bring their sensitivity down a little bit. That's good enough. Now these throttles will basically act as whatever you want. So this is just for an example. But let's go back into our Lua tutorial block, and let's go ahead and add 2 nodes. So we will call this bar 1, and we can call this bar 2. And both of these have to be number inputs because we are taking a number and we are inputting it into this controller. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take these, we're going to keep 1 on the top and 2 on the bottom. We're going to go ahead and grab a composite right number, and we are going to count it at 2. Now, I'm going to change it a little bit. I am going to count it up to 7, and we're going to actually use the last 2. So we're going to go off of 6 and 7, and you will see why. I'll show you it later and it'll make sense. It is only because we're using touch data. It goes off of channel, I think, 2 and 3, and then 1 for a boolean, for pressed. And these channels will interfere with it if you have them coming in as well. So we now know that we are getting a signal on channel 6 and channel 7. So we need to connect this composite here. And again, this composite is basically just taking all these numbers, putting it in a nice tidy little pile, and then sending it across this node, and then we have to actually unwrap it in the Lua now and take those numbers. So, in order to do that, we need an onTick function. So we're going to go and grab a function onTick. Now this, we're going to put above our onDraw. So we're going to move that down a little bit, and we're going to go ahead and move this forward a touch, and there we go. Now we've got a function onTick. Right off the bat, we need another end because we have another function. And there we go. Now what we need? Now we need to input our numbers. So we've already got them coming in off of our composite. So what we need to do is actually read those numbers somehow. So we have 2 numbers coming in. We got input 1 and input 2. Those are going to be in our function onTick. This is the exact same what we've done here as taking these numbers and reading them with composite here from a instrument panel or whatever else you've done. So it's the exact same as that, it's just in Lua and looks a little bit different. So you're still getting input 1 equals input get number. The number in the bracket is the channel that it's going to be reading off of. So we're reading off of channel 6 and channel 7. These are just the shortcut keys again, same as what we did up here. So that means that input get number 6 is going to be basically abbreviated to input 1. Now whenever we write input 1, it's going to be reading whatever channel we got off of channel 6. So we're going to go ahead and change this to 6 and input 7, just because I am going to get very confused whenever I have a couple of input 1 and 2s, and they're actually 6 and 7, so that's just a me thing. Whatever floats your boat. Now, we have our numbers, we have our bar, we have our red part of the bar that's actually going to move up. So, what do we have to do in here to make this go up? We can't change the location, because that will just move where it actually is, and we won't be drawing the red bar wherever it isn't, so it will basically just be moving, which we don't want. We want to actually extend it up, which is the final numbers over here. So it is our x, which is our width, and then we've got y, which is our height. Now remember, the bigger the number, the further down it goes. So what we need to actually do is we need to subtract the number that we have up here, because we're going to be going into the positives. If the number you're inputting is a negative, it will work. But we need this number to be going down no matter what. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 1, which is the current height of our bar, and we are going to do minus input 6, and that's it. Now, whenever we move that up, we can go ahead and press done. We can press update, and we can go ahead and actually connect these. So we'll connect this to bar 1, that to bar 2. Now, an important thing to note, this is going to move it up 1 pixel. So every single time, this is basically controlling how many pixels it goes up. So if we want to move it up a lot, we're going to just say 60 is our max. So let's go ahead and spawn this. We've still got our bar, and there we go. We can see it moving now. However, we're going to go all the way up, and we're just going to keep going and going and going, because we can go up to 60, right? And this has a max of 64, so it's going to keep going up, and it's going to go up way too high. So the solution I'm going to show you in this video is just clamping it. There are other things you can do. You can divide, you can multiply if it's too low, you can do all of that stuff. That does require you to know your max values and everything like that. You can do percentages, all of that fun stuff. But on the Lua side of things, I'm adding a clamp, and it's a good idea to have anyways, just so that in case something doesn't work out, it never really can go above what you're supposed to be at. So I'll show you how to do that. So we have to figure out where this should be clamped. So right there. So we can probably do 40. Yep, so there we go. So that's 40. So this thing has a max range of 40 that we want it to be able to get. We can go ahead and make our way back into the select screen, into our Lua, back into here. And we are actually going to change the numbers up here in the on tick. So right up here, we have to remember that number is 6. So at the very end, we're going to delete all of this. We're going to do math.minimum. Just min. We are going to do a bracket, and we're going to do math.max. We are going to do another bracket, and now we're going to actually get the input.getNumber, and then the channel, and that was 6, so we're going to change that back to 6. I'm just copying and pasting that so I don't have to write it all. Now what we want to do is we want to do a comma. This will be our minimum. So we'll just change that to 0 right now. And this will be our max, which is also going to be 0. So we'll just end that bracket there. Now we already know that we want our max to be 40. So I am going to leave this as a positive 40 because we invert it down here. This number is still correct, and this should be positive still. Now we can go ahead and check for errors, and we have one, and that is because I need another bracket there. And there we go, that's all done. So let's go ahead and end that. Confirm, and go and check if this is correct. There we go. So we can go ahead and raise this all we want. We'll keep going, keep going. And there we go. So it's not going any more past. So that is the easiest way I find to do that. And then you can divide this number before or whatever really you want to do with it. But I just like clamping it on the Lua's end so that you know no matter what, it can't go over even if a number changes. So we'll go ahead and do the exact same on the other bar now. So we already have our input here. We can go ahead and copy all of that. We can go ahead and delete all of that. There we go. We have to remember to change that number. Now, these are the exact same height, so we don't actually have to worry about the maximum being the same, because it's correct. So what we have to do here now is we have to go and find the second bar, which we conveniently labeled, find the red, which is here, 255, 0, and 0, and the 1, which is the height. Now we're going to do minus input 2. We get any further, that is a 2, that should be a 7, and let's go ahead and finish that. Make sure all of that's still connected. Go and check this, make sure that you change this to a max of 60. And we'll go and make sure that this all works. That's going up, which is good. And there we go, so it's clamped. We can go ahead and bring the other one up as well. And that works too. So let's go and make some little number displays. So we make our way over to our little taskbar on the left. We press text. We just tap with the left click on the mouse, and you can write whatever you want. Now before you write stuff, if I just write normally, we'll just do hello and type that. That's going to be the same size that you use normally, and we'll use normally in the Lua. So whenever you write text, draw, whatever, that's the size it will come up with. Now this site has an amazing feature that can actually shrink that. So you can actually tap this, you have to type it before you type anything, and we will use the same labels as before. So we'll do RPM, we'll do capitals, and then we just press enter, and we have smaller text. Now, if you notice on the right, we get a big function down here. So you need that for the text to work. So we will go RPM, we will do temp, and we will do, what was the other one I did? Speed. There we go. So we have our labels now. We can go ahead and move these somewhere. I'll move them over to the very corner over here so that I have enough room for some stuff. And there we go. Now, I don't want those to be the same color, so I can actually go and pick the little eyedrop button here. I can tap the color I want, and I can change the color of these to be whatever I want. Now, those aren't going to change. So those are my labels, so I don't want those to change. So I am going to now, we can go ahead and pick like green or something, I don't really care. And we are going to do a couple of numbers. So we'll go ahead and just do up to the hundreds for each. So we'll do 999, we will do 999, and we will do 999. We will go ahead and position these a little bit better. I'll position them one away. And just like that, there we go. So I'm happy with that. Now, we want to go and grab this. So everything here that we just drew, including this color up here, we want to go and grab all of that. Now, we want to come down here, and we want to paste that all inside of our onDraw. Let's go ahead and move this all over. Not that, I moved that over too much. There we go. So we have our RPM, temperature, and speed. Those are our labels. And then we have the actual numbers. Now I placed those all in the correct order. So this one's going to be the top, middle, and then that one's the bottom. The important thing we need so that this all actually works. Everything down here, starting from the draw line. All of that. We'll go ahead and bring that into our code now. And we will put this underneath the final end and down here. So I never have to look at it again. So we'll go ahead and check for errors and make sure that it all spawns and looks correct. There we go. We'll go ahead and hop on over, and there we go. Yep, perfect. So that all looks exactly how I want. So now we can go ahead and make them actually work with some keypads. So we'll go ahead and place 3 keypads here. 1, 2, and 3. I'm not going to label them. We know the order. We'll go ahead in here, and we have to place 3 number inputs. That's going to be for our RPM, our temp, and our speed. These all have to be number and input, just like that. Now, we can go ahead and come down here, and this, the touch data actually uses 3 and 4, I believe. So I did some fun stuff and just made everything a little bit more complicated than I had to, which probably isn't great for a tutorial, but hopefully you guys aren't too lost. So we're going to move this down to 8, 9, and 10. This is just because it infringed upon the channels that the touch needed, and we do need the touch data if we want to do a push button. So that is important. So our RPM is on channel 8. And then our speed is on channel 9 that I want to do in the same order. There we go. So it goes RPM, temperature, and then speed. I want to do it in the same order that they actually appear so that I can remember. Now, we need to actually input these. So we're putting it in a nice tidy package. We're sending it across the composite. And now we need to actually open it up and read what those numbers are telling us. So we need to go and grab a input equals get number. We're going to go ahead and put these down here. And we are going to put them all down here. Now they start at 8, so again, to keep my sanity, I'm going to leave them all the same, and they go up to 10. So we're going to do 8, 9, 10, and they match all of those numbers. That just makes it so much easier to remember. Now, we have all of our labels down here. Remember, the quotations are only for things that we actually want to come up and display, as in labels and things like that. We want to actually display a number, so it's not a fixed thing that we're showing. So what we want to do is we want to delete all of that, and we're going to put input 8. Just having input 8, that will display whatever number is coming in on input 8. We're going to do the exact same here, except we're going to do input 9 and so on. 10, there we go. So that is exactly what we want. Now that all should work, so we can go ahead and check for errors. We can come back here, make sure that's all connected correctly, and now we actually want to connect our keypad. So the top will be RPM, we go temperature, and then speed. So let's go and spawn this in and see what we're dealing with. No blue screen, so that means things are good. And there we go. So we can go ahead and put 2, and there we go. We can put 22, We can put 563, 62, whatever. That one doesn't seem to work. So the bottom one's not working, not quite sure why, so I have to go and check that. Probably just a wrong channel or something. But you see how they have decimal points as well. You might not like how they look because they kind of shift all the numbers down a little bit. So I generally like to remove those decimal points. The way that you do that is using a floor. So you can use a floor in normal logic as well. They're really great. They make builds kind of look a little bit more tidy whenever you don't have a ton of decimal points everywhere. Especially for speedometers and everything. So I'll show you how to do that within the Lua. So first of all, let's actually try and figure out why this isn't working. So we've got our output there coming into our speed. That is all connected. Our speed is on channel 10. We are reading channel 10, and there it is. So I put channel 19 instead of channel 10. So that is the problem. So that's fixed. Now the problem of the decimal point that we don't want. So to fix this, again, it's no issue if you want decimal points. This is just kind of a nice little thing I like to do. So I'm going to isolate those channels that we're reading in brackets. I'm going to go ahead and do this for all of them, just so I don't have to do it later. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do math.floor. And we're going to do that for all of them. Math.floor. I just spelled floor terribly wrong. We've got an I there for some reason, math.floor, and there we go. Now, as you can see, one problem we have here is we have a bracket here, we have a bracket here, we have a bracket here, so that's not the right amount of brackets. So we got to finish this off one more time at the very end. There we go. So that all should be correct, and we should not have any decimal points. So let's go and ensure that's true before I just completely mislead you all. It looks like I just completely misled you all. So let's see here. Field, oh, I spelled for instead of floor. Thank you, Alistair, for embarrassing me on my own video. There we go. That should work now. Let's go and double check again. I should not be the one doing this tutorial. And there we go. So we have 0 decimal points now. So we can go ahead and do 12. We can do 512, and we can do 690. There we go. So that is great. That is working. Yeah, so that's really simply how you can do that. So let's move on to actually doing a button and having it be able to turn on lights as well as look like it was actually pressed. So we are back once again to the drawing board. We are going to go ahead and get the little color here, and we're going to go ahead and decide where we want to place a button. In my case, I just want to place a big button right here. So that is my button. Done. Not quite. So let's go and choose a solid rectangle that we want to draw now, and let's go ahead and make this just a touch darker. We'll go ahead and draw that in the middle, and that is actually going to fill out my button, and that's what I want to change color whenever I press the button, just that it has kind of that click feel, so that you can actually see that you pressed it. So you'll see how to do this later. It's very easy. Let's go and bring this all into the Lua. So we'll copy all of that. That's what we just did. Now we're going to paste this in our on draw after all of that, and we will just keep going down. There we go. Now we have draw rectangle, we have draw rectangle right here, and we have draw rectangle full. So we just want to make sure that we actually have all of those little abbreviations. I'm not sure what the real name is for these, if there is one or not. Who knows, but abbreviation sounds right. I'm just going to keep going with that. But we want to make sure that we actually have all of the ones that we're using, or else we'll get the blue screen saying that we don't have anything that we're actually receiving for this. We're just saying some random stuff. So that is where our button is going to be. So we can go ahead and spawn this. And we can see our button, we can see if that's actually where we want it. It's definitely where I want it because it's a tutorial and I don't really care that much. I'm not going for looks, this is not one of my screens that I care about. So let's go ahead and add some touch data to this. Also add a light here and a node for that light. So that I don't have to do it later, because less work for Alistair now is just amazing. Let's go ahead and add in a node here. Let's not move that one. We will go back up to here. That needs to be an output. There we go. That needs to come down here, and we now have to go and grab a composite read on off. Connect that, and we'll go ahead and make this channel 2. I always make my channels past channel 1. I never use channel 1 just because I always have stuff sharing on it. So yeah, that's just a me thing. Now we also need the touch composite from our screen. So the touch composite is basically, actually I'll connect this right now because I'm going to forget. This is basically telling us where on this we're actually pressing and if we're pressing on it. So it's very important stuff, and in our case we definitely need it because we need to see if we're actually pressing in this zone and this amount of pixels or whatever. Then we want to output on this channel. If we're pressing in this zone, we want to output on this channel. So as you can see, we can't just connect our touch data directly into our Lua because that will remove this one. But we do have this pass through here, so we can go ahead and connect that. And that is why we can't connect to any of this, because this already has the channels built into it. And if we double them up, they will not work. So we are going to go ahead and come back into here now, and we can come down here and find touch right here, on tick. So this is everything that's going to be on in the on tick. So I don't need any of this, but I do need all of that. That is very important stuff, and that all has to be inside the on tick. So I'm going to go ahead and move that end down a little bit, and there we go. So we're going to remove all of the notes because it kind of makes it look a little bit more complicated than it is. So here we can see it. Input X, which is the same as our coordinates for everything else, is on channel 3, and input Y is our coordinates for Y, which is on channel 4, and is pressed is a boolean, which is an on-off on channel 1, so we don't want any input buttons on channel 1 either. And this is where we actually want to define if this is where we're touching, then we want to output here. So as we can see here is press rectangle, so that is just, we can remove that. That's the same as the little abbreviations up here. And I'm just going to call this B1 for button 1. And now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to delete all of this because that's the same thing. And I'm going to call that B1, output boolean on channel 2. That number is the channel it's outputting. And I have channel 2 on the other one, so I want it on channel 2. So if B1 is pressed, that means that if I'm pressing inside this zone, so this is my X coordinate, this is my Y coordinate, and this is my width, and this last number is how tall it is. So I don't want to just guess at those numbers, but I already have the numbers because I already drew it down here. So we can go ahead and do the draw rectangle. I don't want to do the full because I don't want it to be on the inside. I want to be able to press the button where the button actually is. If I do this one, it's going to be one block too far in on every single side, which I don't want. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to delete all of these coordinates, and I'm going to paste in the coordinates to that outside rectangle. And just like that. Now, we don't actually define any of this stuff in here, is point rectangle. So I have to come back over here to the help, and I have to grab everything inside of this function. Function is point rectangle x, comma y, comma rectangle x, all of that. I'm not going to go into that, but we need it. So now I'm going to put that after this end, right there. And that's going to have another end after it. That's going to make sure that we show no errors. And that theoretically should work. So let's go ahead and press done. Let's ensure that we have this on channel 2 and is all connected. We'll press update. Make sure that our light is connected, make sure that our composite is connected, and let's go and try clicking it. And if we click inside of the rectangle, we should theoretically get this light to turn on. There we go. So, as you can see, if we press inside the rectangle, it presses and turns on the light. Now, I can't really tell if I'm pressing. So that's the problem. I can obviously right now, because I have a damn light right here. But if I'm somewhere else, you won't really be able to tell. Now, if you're not happy with this hitbox, example like right now, if I want to be able to touch it a little bit further outside, I would have to move its location over before I either make it deeper or more over, because I can't draw this direction without bringing the entire thing over this direction. So if I want to move this over 1 pixel, I need to move its X location. That would be -1. So I would -1 from that. And if I want to move it up 1, I would -1 from the Y. So I'm not going to do that. I'm happy with this right here, but that is how you would move it if you want. So let's go ahead and make this change color whenever you actually press it. The way you do that is I'm going to make my way all the way back down here. This is my little box. I can do rectangle full. That's the inside, because the rectangle full is what I drew to fill in the entire thing. The rectangle is just the border. This is what I want to actually change color. So what I'm going to do is I have my color here, and I can do this. If B1, then this color. So if my button is being pressed, that's B1, then I want the button to be this color. And then I'm going to write under that, else, I'm going to do SC, and then I'm going to do the same, whatever it is, the color codes and everything there. I'm just going to do zeros right now. So this is if it's turned off. So if I'm not pressing the button, I want them all to be 30, not 03. I want them all to be 30 because that's its default color. I want it to be darker whenever I press it. So I'm going to just remove 10 on all of those and make that 20. So if my button is on, then I want my color to be 20, 20, and 20. If it's not, that being the else, then I want it to be 30, 30, and 30. So one more thing that I want to do is I want to come down here, and this is indeed a function. Something is happening. So I want to add an end because I don't want this to continue happening down here. If B1 is not active, then all of that will get completely messed up. So that should all work. So let's go and double check that that works. Yep, there we go. So that changes just a little bit. So that's pretty good to me. You can always play around with that number a little bit more if you want. But that is how you make a button in Lua. So that's it for this tutorial. I hope this helped you out a little bit and didn't just confuse you more. There's a lot of way more helpful people out there other than me, especially on some of the Discords. I do have a Discord that is linked in my bio always, so feel free to join that. A lot of really helpful people in there. A lot of the people that helped me with learning Lua are on there as well. So yeah, so thanks for watching everybody, and hope this helped.